Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcast. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Mary Brush, and I serve as the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools. It is my pleasure to introduce Episode 4 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. Today's episode will focus on mental health and wellness. With us to lead a roundtable discussion with her team is Mrs. Mary Selden, Director of Special Services. Mary, I will now turn it over to you to introduce your guests.
Thank you, Marianne. After reviewing feedback in our winter 2023 climate survey, parents asked for more resources on the pitfalls of social media, mental health concerns, and anxiety, as well as other wellness recommendations. And our goal is to create more resources on those topics and others throughout this monthly podcast to help students, parents, and staff in our community. Today's first mental health and wellness podcast will include the following mental health professionals: Kristen Famiano, counselor at 9th Grade Academy; Kelsey Frasier, district school psychologist; and Chelsea Robichaud, school social worker at Washington Elementary. My name again is Mary Selden. I'm the Director of Special Services, and I have been working at Romeo Community Schools for 18 years. I earned my bachelor's degrees in elementary education and special education from Michigan State University, my master's in special education and education specialist degree in administration from Oakland University, and my special education director certification from Wayne State University. I oversee our special services staff and lead our trauma response team, and I'm incredibly lucky to work with the wonderful staff here in Romeo. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start off by having each of you introduce yourselves. Kristen?
Hi, everyone. I've been at Romeo since 2001-2002 school year. 4 years before that, I was at St. Clair High School in the East China School District, where I taught English. I earned my bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan Flint, and then in 2001, I earned my master's in counseling from Wayne State. About 10 years later, I started volunteering in the mental health world. I was a president of a mental health nonprofit in Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb County. We ran mini conferences. We ran support groups for adults who were diagnosed with mental health conditions. I've been the keynote speaker for Oakland County Community Mental Health Recovery Conference and some of their other programs. I served on Royal Oak Beaumont's Recipient Rights Advisory Board before their inpatient psychiatric unit closed in 2023. And currently I volunteer with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we provide programming to schools, to communities, churches, pretty much anybody who asks us to come in for more information in Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb counties. It's also a national organization, and we're the Metro chapter.
All right, I'm Kelsey Frasier. I'm one of 3 school psychologists in the district. I'm currently at Hamilton Parsons Elementary, Washington Elementary, Croswell, and the high school. I've worked in Romeo Community Schools since 2016. Prior to Romeo, I was on the west side of the state at Mona Shores School District, which is in Norton Shores. I earned my bachelor's from Grand Valley State University with full intentions of going into teaching, but I did a huge pivot my senior year and was enlightened into school psychology. So I switched up my major, graduated in 2010 with a major in psychology and a minor in sociology with a ton of education classes. And then I went to University of Wisconsin Stout, which was about an hour away from Minneapolis, and I earned my master's degree in 2012, and then my education specialist degree in 2014. The school psychology program had a lot of emphasis on development and mental health and trauma. So now I'm here.
And my name is Chelsea Robichaud. I am the school social worker at Washington Elementary. I worked in Romeo District for about the last 6 years. I have been at Washington that entire time, but I also was over at Hevel for a year, and then I helped out over at Croswell and Hamilton Parsons. So you might have seen me in a few different schools in the district. Prior to Romeo, I worked for several years in another local school district as an elementary school social worker. In regards to my education, I received my master's degree from Wayne State University with a school certification in social work. And then I received my bachelor's degree in social work from Oakland University with a minor in sociology. And as a licensed social worker, as everybody at this table, we all have licenses and continuing education credits we have to do in order to maintain those licenses. I've done a lot of trainings over the years, but I have specifically focused a lot of my training on trauma and behavioral interventions for students.
Thank you, ladies. I'm so happy to have you here. For our first mental health and wellness podcast, I think that it would be helpful if we discussed each of your roles within the school district and also give a few examples of how you support our students, our parents, and our staff. Kelsey?
Yeah, so the school psychologist can have many different roles, which can be really dependent on the district you work in. The most traditional role is the testing for special education services, but I'm really fortunate to be in Romeo as they see my role much bigger than that. So my job is to apply knowledge of learning, behavior, development, and mental health to support students and their teachers in the schools, so they feel like they want to be at school. That's my number one goal, is to have students want to be at school and alleviate any problems they might be experiencing, especially things that get in the way of learning, and just overall improve their ability to learn. We also support, the district-wide initiatives and work on systems to better support all students and teachers.
I am the school social worker, and school social workers have many roles within the school community. We have lots of different responsibilities. My overarching goal is to help students be socially, emotionally, and behaviorally successful and help address or remove barriers that would impact this success, as well as advocate for student needs. I work daily with individual groups or groups of students, special education students and general education students, to address an identified need. So those needs might involve problem solving, friendship skills, conflict resolution, social skills, emotional regulation, or anxiety. I work really closely with families to connect them to community resources as needed. I work a lot with outside therapists and doctors as needed. I am part of that special education team, so I help to evaluate for special education eligibilities. And I work really closely with teachers to address student needs in the classroom and really just help students be successful in the school environment.
Okay. As a school counselor, I'm going to throw some big letters out. MT, MD, SS. So multi-tiered, multi-domain systems of support. So basically, I work with students, parents, and staff, and the community, focusing on academic, the domains of school, how kids learn, college and career readiness. So what do students need to know to do some career exploration? Search for college. So I answer questions, about local colleges and help them find their own resources on where to look up information that's pertinent to them. And then also some social domains. It's not uncommon, especially in ninth grade, as students are entering high school, that, maybe some friend groups, they start to split off a little bit, or, students, are feeling maybe their self-esteem's a little bit low and they're struggling with learning because of how they're feeling. Or it's just helping them, put themselves in someone else's shoes to see how someone else might be feeling. So all of those, the impact comes back to how all of that affects their learning. And then ultimately, how it relates to their college and career goals. So, if I'm interacting well with others, I'm developing skills that will help me become a good employee and my and whatever my career goals are. So all of these tie back to what the student goals are, but basically the domains of the academics, the college and career, and then social.
All right. One of the things that I admire so much of all three of you is you don't just service students from an office. I see you in the classrooms. I see you working with our teams of teachers. I see you with student groups. Have you noticed a change since the pandemic? Has our needs changed for our students? How do you see yourself supporting our students differently now in 2024?
So every morning when I get to school, people kind of tease me and joke around with me a little bit because I'm walking laps with the kids. It's when students get dropped off at the secondary level, a lot of times they just walk around the building. So I walk around the building too, And I like to be active and move around, but I also get a good sense of how is the energy in the building that day. How are students, if there's a student looking down, or maybe they're just tired, but if a student who's normally, smiling, walking in, they're walking in maybe not looking that way. It helps me kind of gauge where the school is at that time. It also gives me time to interact with the other teachers and to see, kind of get the feel for the building. Since the pandemic, I'll say that it's a struggle, is that students, they're having, especially in ninth grade, I think it's going to be this way, whether it's before or after the pandemic, but they're, looking at, who they are, who they want to be. There's some insecurity in that. And they're walking in with, friend groups and trying to figure out who they are and what's going on with them while they're, going through puberty and growing and developing and, trying to figure that out. So it's kind of this combination where during the pandemic, they were isolated and we were very concerned about their interaction and not having enough interaction. And then now with, a building of 450 students, 470 students, almost is too much for some of them, where it's, the noise and the chaos and those who, the lights and just, feeling like secure within the building, around so many people. So it's helping them navigate, you're not isolated anymore, but at the same time, how do we navigate all these people around us?
And I've definitely noticed too over at the elementary level. I mean, some of the students during the pandemic, that was their kindergarten year, their first grade year, their second grade year, they had no prior schooling. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them entered after the pandemic and they might have been in first grade or second grade or third grade and they might not have had very much schooling up until that point. So just being able to get into their routines and know what school is and those social structures that they missed as well, being able to socially interact with other children because they were at home. I definitely see some areas that we need to work on, post-pandemic.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the environment after the pandemic is really overstimulating for our students. So we're seeing a lot more breaks that are needed, or just a lot more sensory breaks, to get away from the loud noises or lots of people. I mean, you went from having very little amount of people around you to all of a sudden you have a classroom full of 20, 25, 30 students with unexpected variables or unexpected behaviors that you don't, have at home. So we see a lot of students that have a hard time focusing or handling the student next to them, and they just need that break. So it's definitely changed. And then the work stamina is really difficult. We expect a lot at school, but we're kind of having to take that back a little bit because, we're recovering from that pandemic.
All right, building off this conversation, our goal is to increase student skills in self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. What are some ways that you see these skills being developed in the buildings that you're working in? Kristen, can you start us off?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. With ninth grade academy, we have the freshman seminar class where they're learning some of these skills, and I think understanding who they are and how they function every day. When I speak with students, we talk a lot about organization and taking care of ourselves. So what can we do every day? So we have the Chromebooks. We have the backpacks, staying organized, getting on a schedule. So when I get home from school, maybe I go to tutoring after school, or when I get home and when I walk into my door, what is my routine for the night? So we work with students on creating that routine for academics and work completion. And then also, sleep is huge at every level. And so when, students start to, get their devices, their cell phones, usually I think in middle school, they start getting those. And so putting those away at a good time and being able to kind of regulate that, because the minute the sleep's disrupted, students come in the next day, they're tired, maybe they skip breakfast because they woke up late and hit snooze too many times. And so, looking at that, if you're walking in the building tired and you're hungry and right away your learning is affected. So it's helping students regulate by getting on a schedule. And then also with academics focusing on that work completion, because that practice on the other work is going to lead to, more proficiency, and then on those summative assignments. So, but also, importantly is the why behind it. So all of this leads back to what their goals are and what they want to achieve. And so it's helping them also set goals, and they do that in seminar as well. And they have a goal tracker and they work on that. So, ultimately though, it starts with them and their routines and what their goals are. And we're here to help support them and to achieve those.
And at Washington, we have a curriculum called Caring School Community. So Caring School Community is a comprehensive research-based program that builds school-wide community and develops student social skills. It focuses on those areas that Ms. Selden mentioned earlier: self-management, self-awareness, relationship skills, problem-solving, and executive functioning skills. So these lessons happen in the classroom. They happen daily with their teachers. They have morning meetings, afternoon closing circles, and then they have class meetings throughout the week. And they focus on those areas that need development. In addition, there's a buddy component, which the kids have really, really enjoyed the last several school years. This is where they have a younger group of students pair up with an older group of students and practice those social skills with an older peer buddy. And they have really enjoyed this. The long-term effects of this program, they're supposed to be improved academic performance, reduced problem behaviors, improved school climate, the students feeling more connected to the school, among several other things. So it's really been a beneficial program that we've started over at Washington, and it has really helped the students, and they've seemed to really enjoy it.
And this doesn't really go up to the secondary level, but the zones of regulation is at the elementary, but we do this in hopes that it establishes that emotional awareness and that self-regulation by the time they get up to the secondary level. But zones of regulation is a tool that helps us gain awareness of our emotions and regulate our emotions. And it can come up, like, we have many names for this. We have self-regulation, self-control, self-management, impulse control, all those things. And as we talked about before, that's the area that we are struggling the most with post-pandemic, is being able to control our impulses, follow the schedule, because we're used to not following a schedule in the past. And then this helps us understand what happens to our body. And part of zones of regulation, they put a visual to it. You have 4 zone colors. You have blue, yellow, green, and red. And our students have a visual paired with words so they can understand, I might be in this zone right now. If you're in the yellow zone, you're feeling anxious or worried. If you're in the blue zone, you're feeling tired or sad. If you're in the red zone, you're feeling angry or way too excited because you've lost body control. And if you're in the green zone, you're ready to learn and you're feeling happy. And obviously we want all of our students in the green zone, but we can't stay there, right? So we teach our students what happens to your body when you're feeling excited. You lose a little bit of control, your thoughts are racing a little bit, and what can we do to help you get back and regulate those emotions? Because we also teach them no emotion is bad, no zone is bad, emotions are good for us. So we need them to navigate the social world. So that is one of our biggest things in the elementary world that has gone really far, and I think that helps them understand that emotional awareness. Once they understand that, then you can have emotional regulation. If you don't understand your own emotions and you don't know what happens to your body, then you're not able to control your body. So we're really just kind of bringing an awareness to students' body and giving them the language, and then teachers are having a common language as well on how to communicate with their students when they're stuck. Chelsea and I have gone to some students that don't want to talk about it, but we give them a visual and we give them the folder and they say this and that, I'm feeling in the red zone. They don't even use the words, they point and then they point, and we know exactly what they need, and we give that to them, and then we're able to process later. So it's a really exciting tool. I've loved it for many years, but I think the students are really grasping to it. And I think by the time you have some 9th graders, I know for sure that have had it or know what it is. Obviously, you don't say what zone are you in at 9th grade, but they have built some awareness based on that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that those different zones, they can change as the day goes on.
Yes.
Talk a lot with the 9th graders on this idea that we have different feelings and emotions every, I think they say 60 or 90 seconds. Yeah. And so I might come in to school feeling one way, and by lunch I'm feeling maybe a different way. And then by, the time school ends, I'm feeling it even another way. So I can go, I'm sure, through all those zones within a day.
Well, we've also said, like, you can feel one or two zones at once.
At the same time.
We could be green and yellow, like we're ready to learn, but we're getting kind of excited.
Yeah.
And also really bringing it up to, understanding what zone another person's in and having them look at someone's face and say, I think that they might be in the yellow zone because they're getting nervous that they have to read in front of the class or something like that. And then what can we do to help that person?
And letting them know that there's always an opportunity to reset. Like, we don't have to stay in that zone. We don't have to get stuck there. And these are some strategies we can use to kind of pull ourselves out of that and get back to that green zone.
Yeah. And even as like at home as a parent too, is identifying like you're feeling mad, but you don't have to act out and hit. Like, we have to learn, like, you can be mad and that's okay, but we can't have an action to match that red zone. So I'm really kind of saying everything is okay to feel, but we just have to manage our behaviors.
And even sometimes with that, if there's somebody acts out on the emotion they have, that's not the most effective way to act out on it. Then there's that secondary feeling of now I feel guilty and now I feel ashamed and now I feel even worse about myself. And so the idea is to teach them, if I can be, once they start feeling this here, I can do X, Y, Z. So then I can prevent that behavior and then that secondary feeling of even feeling worse. So
exactly.
And I think it's fair to say that adults, we all can learn from that as well.
Yes, we can.
So, every day I reflect on how my day was in ways that I could have I could have been more effective in certain areas. So I appreciate it. I'm sure it's having a big impact on the adults as well.
Yes, for sure.
Seeing all the different levels too, because zones of regulation is a foundational set of lessons for elementary, witnessing those students bring it to the middle school and introducing their teachers and their new social workers and counselors to that language is really exciting because it's working.
Yes.
And that's a strategy that they want to use. I'm excited for our future podcasts because we'll get to dig in a little more deeply to some of these strategies. I wanted to thank everybody for being here today. I'm so excited to finally be able to record our first podcast on these topics. The biggest hurdle for us previously was the equipment use and the technology support, so we're incredibly grateful to MIT and to Romeo Community Schools for helping us share this information. We will have additional mental health and wellness podcasts about once a month. We also have a State of the District event coming up on February 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. where we'll have opportunities for parents to attend breakout sessions, some of which include topics on mental health and wellness. Kristen, Chelsea, Kelsey, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I want to thank our mental health professionals for sharing their expertise and experiences with us today. I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please take the time to listen to our first 2 episodes on the upcoming election millage renewals, the non-homestead operating millage and the sinking fund millage, and an overview of the district's strategic plan presented by district leadership. Coming up next, we will hear from our elementary principals on culture building, curriculum, and collaboration at our 5 elementary schools. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcasts. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com.